Hey y'all, thanks for joining us for another episode of 911 Delta Tethered for Life. This podcast may not be suitable to all listeners due to language and subject matters. Please listen with care.
Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of 911 Delta Tethered for Life podcast. We're your hosts, Casey and Anna. Due to some personal injury issues, our original episode plans were canceled. So instead, this week's episode is dedicated to firefighter Trevor Brown, Sterling Fire Department, Loudon County Fire Rescue, and Communications. This episode will include real radio traffic from the incident in Loudon County that occurred Friday, February 16th. So grab those headsets and tissues. Let's talk.
Yes, for those of you who don't know, there was a house explosion in Virginia last Friday. It was in the evening around 8:30 at night, and Loudoun County Fire and Rescue was who responded. They actually had one firefighter fatality, and they had several other firefighters trapped in the debris from the home after it exploded. They were able to get those firefighters out, but it was a very intense situation. It was a long effort to remove these people, and that's why we're dedicating tonight's episode to their heroic efforts and a job super well done.
Okay, Bug. So before we get started on tonight's episode, how was your week?
My week was okay. The kids got well, and
Yay,
then
finally.
yeah. Then the hubby went out of town for the fire chiefs conference, which, it's nice to have a little peace and quiet. Of course, I'm home
Yeah.
with the kids alone, so it's like
50-50.
right.
I
But
could go either way.
how was your week there, Casey?
Well, it was great until Monday afternoon, and I decided to go and break my knee or tibia, whatever the hell you want to call it. So I did not get to go to the conference this week in Virginia Beach, and I was really looking forward to that. Um, but
Yeah,
here I
that was
am.
a bad move there.
It's definitely a bad move. I don't
So
recommend it.
this week we decided to try and explain what it's like when your night or day goes from normal to holy shit in a nanosecond. And that is the way it usually is. There's never like a lead up or a warning. Firefighters routinely respond to potential gas leak calls. A lot of them are unfounded. It might be skunks or odor from a gas station. There's all kinds of things that people call in a gas odor about. And sometimes you get a legitimate leak. And, in houses with gas appliances, that's definitely a real fear. So if you use EFD or emergency fire dispatch, one of the questions for the callers is, do they know what is leaking and where it's coming from? Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. They just have an odor, or maybe you also could get a call for a CO detector going off, and that may be all they know. So, but if you aren't using EFD, I think it's always a question that you should ask, because to me it kind of dictates some of the response. Like if you know it's a known leak from a known place, or if you've got alarms going off, it's more likely to be a legit leak than if somebody just smells something. Or sometimes they might say, yeah, there's like a loud hissing from behind my stove, or I just got home and realized that I left my stove on all day. A hissing from an underground tank that's buried, or even from like your grill tank. I've seen those get punctures and leaks, or leak from the valve, either way. Where Casey and I have dispatched, we've always had the protocols that if it's a known leak and it's a commercial gas company, then you just immediately contact the gas company. You ask the owners normally if they have done that, because that's always a smart thing to do. If you do have a gas leak, call your
Mhm.
gas company because it's kind of like the power lines, right? If the power's on, not a whole lot the fire department can do if there's a fire on the
And
power line.
I'm going to interrupt for that. Know who your company is.
Yes. Yes. I mean, because,
Please.
that's not something like usually we can call the gas companies and find out like they will have a record of that, but there are a lot more gas companies going running
Yes.
around than there are power companies, right?
And you'd be surprised, people, who does not know, like how many people call in and do not know
Oh
the
yeah.
name of their. So speed up things, know that for sure.
Yes,
Anyway, sorry about
definitely. 'Cause this is one of those calls that can go from nothing to holy shit in a second. So as a
that.
dispatcher, you just always want to keep that in mind. And I think I want to set the stage for people who are listening who may not understand like the dynamics of the comm center, but this was about 8:30 on a Friday night, so it's probably a bit busy, but it's kind of steady busy. Like that 5:30 to 8:30 hour, 8:39 is busy most weeknights anyway. Of course, Friday you may have a little extra volume that goes later than that, but it's probably steady busy, but it's probably all normal stuff. And they are worrying about, night shift is worrying about what they're going to eat for dinner because they probably haven't decided yet. And if you know anything about most dispatchers, they have a real hard time picking what they're going to eat. That was always my first thing when I would get into work. If we were ordering food, I need y'all to decide because I get hangry. And if you don't decide, I'm going to decide because I have to eat. Anyway, so there may have been a hangry dispatcher, but that's a different story. I just wanted to kind of set the tone for it's probably a little bit busy, but it's regular, steady, busy stuff. And then this happens, which is kind of a routine call, and then it turns into not routine. And then it's
Yeah.
game on after that. Yeah, it can just
Yes.
go bad real quick.
Yes. And this stems from like our episodes the past 2 weeks where we talked about the chaos and it only takes a minute for something to pop off and the split second decisions and everything pretty much just drops at that moment and shit gets reeled in real quick and you get the job done.
Who knew the last two episodes were gonna be so poignant? It freaks me out a little bit. You just never know when you're dispatching something what could come of it. And I thought their dispatchers did an excellent job. I thought the firefighters did a good job as well. In particular, they had one lieutenant who was trapped in the basement. He did an excellent job.
A man from truck 611. I don't know if you're hearing this. I'm having trouble getting out. I keep getting a block. Still trapped. I got about a third of my FCPA air left. I'm underneath quite a debris. Right now, I'm just going to relax, try and control my breathing. I'm going to actively like this. I am unable to talk to any of your traffic.
For him to be able to maintain his composure like that was just amazing to me. And I believe it's four of them that were transported to the hospital. Far as I know, at least two of them are still there, maybe three. I know one of them has gone home. And this is going to be something that sticks with this department for a long time. And I hope they get lots of support and lots of love from the public.
This is actually going to be a really long process um, for a lot of folks. And sometimes the reality of the situation doesn't hit until later, which we talked about a little bit last week as well. Um, Oftentimes, once the funeral is over, um, and I'm sure it's the same with all jurisdictions around them, they all pull together. We're all family, not just, oh, well, this happened in this county or city, they'll get over it. No, it's like everybody comes together. It's for such a horrible thing to happen. It's a beautiful, I mean, if that's even appropriate to say, but it's just a beautiful thing to see everybody come together and the family, the brotherhood, sisterhood that goes along with it. But the jurisdictions can have specially trained teams come in for a time after an event like this. But it's crucial for people to keep up with the mental health assistance afterwards, even if you don't recognize that you're struggling or that it's affecting you, because you may not realize that until, I mean, obviously you're human, so yeah, you're obviously it's going to bother you, but we're so programmed with this career that we choose that we just kind of push it down, and you got to keep moving. But that's not how.
When it happens, you just keep working, right? And because you got to
Mm-hmm.
get everything done, you got to get everybody out, you got to finish. And then you end up just sort of taking that mentality with you, right? Like, so you just keep working, working, working. And I think sometimes when the jurisdictions have their teams come in afterwards, like, people are not really to the point yet where they're realizing that it's going to affect them, or the adrenaline has
Mm-hmm.
worn off to a point where they're like, oh crap. And so a lot of times you see it, after the funeral, especially like, for instance, this one is going to be, I believe, March the 4th, or the beginning of March. So it's going to be some time before that happens. That's a long time for people to go kind of without, a sense of closure and getting things worked out. I feel like that's when you really have to sort of self-monitor and, do your own self-care and pay attention to your own needs as the days and weeks go on, because it's going to get worse before it gets
Yep.
better.
And we talked last week as well. The sooner that you know that, the better off you're going to be, in the long
Right.
run. Because it's not okay to just, like, yes, it's your job to keep pushing forward and keep working, but it's, in my opinion, it's not okay to just assume you're okay. Like, especially in something this critical. And I mean, even if you don't or didn't know the firefighter or the police officer, as friends outside of work, or you didn't work on shift at the same time, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, it's still, you're going to be affected.
Right.
It's just, I mean, there's no way to deny that. And you said yourself that group type therapy or debriefings, like in a group setting, doesn't particularly work for you, which is fine. But at the same time, just reach out to somebody,
Right. And
whether
if
it's
it
family or whatever.
Right. I'm sure they will have those sessions, those group things. And
I would definitely
if
hope
you like that kind of
so.
thing, then it's not bad to get to sit down with a group of your friends and talk. I mean, for sure. I'm just not into the formal debriefings and things like that. But I
Right,
mean,
right.
some people are. So, figure out what's right for you. And if you go into it and you realize partway through, this is not what I thought it was going to be, just roll out. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And I will say that I did listen to some of the radio traffic, and I mean, they did do an outstanding job. And this is like the one thing, whether you're fire dispatcher or police dispatcher, these types of incidents are the ones that you fear the most, and obviously hope that you never have to go through as a dispatcher. But it's going to happen. The longer you're in it, it's going to happen. And are you really ever prepared? No, you're not. But it's you're basically gambling when you take this job anyways, whether you're actually on the street or you're in dispatch. You know it's you're going to be faced with these types of situations, and we all know because we've talked about it many times that the fire radio was not my specialty by no means, and I would have totally shit myself. I mean, and I don't mean that in like a joking way. I mean, I don't know. I just
Well, it's just like shots fired, officer down, one at gunpoint. You don't know what you're gonna do until it happens to you.
right. That's true. And then we talked also about having your coworkers. Everybody gets to know each other's weaknesses and strengths, and where one falls a little bit, there's another one that picks you up. So I know that if that happened to be me on that radio, that somebody would be there, and we would get it done. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, and would totally fail at it, but emotionally, it would be hard for me to, because the whole time I think I would be thinking that I don't know what I'm doing, but at the same time, you can't think like that because you got to be focused, and you
Right.
don't have time for that. So every second is precious during something like that. So,
Yes, and I felt for the dispatcher who actually dispatched the second alarm and the RIT team because they actually, which kind of surprised me with Loudon, the dispatcher actually dispatches. I mean, and that list of units, oh my God. I was just like, this poor thing. He's like trying to get it all out in one breath.
yeah,
It's not going to
every
happen, dude.
recorded thing, it's like
It was like imagining those times when we had the old tone board, you had to hit the buttons. And
and then
God
if you fucked it up, you had to
bless, right?
redo
If
it.
you missed one,
Oh,
oh my God. Somebody would
yeah,
get all bent out of shape because they got put at the end of the line or something, and you're like, look, dude,
right.
it's
Good luck when you got to
a
come.
lot of people.
For sure.
Yep. Yep. God bless him,
So
man.
this is,
He rolled with it. And I was like, oh goodness, that's impressive. I was like, this is the
yeah,
moment when Samantha is worth her weight in gold, right?
yes, yes, for sure. Because that frees up that little extra time that you
I
could
mean, it's
be working on getting something else, and like whether it's on the phone or, I mean, you know what's going to more than likely be asked of you, and you're shouting orders across the room, and you know,
right.
mm,
I mean, because that's a good minute and a half of radio traffic, just
right.
listing off all those units.
And as a dispatcher, you can get a lot of shit done in that minute to minute and a half.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah. That's
it may not
that's
sound like a lot to folks, but trust me, you can do a lot.
mm-hmm.
And if you're not a fire dispatcher and you're working patrol or whatnot, best believe you're going to get a real good piece of that fire dispatching world because you're going to get pulled into it, and it's expected.
Right.
And it's just like you would never know. Just tell me what to do, and it's done. So
Well, and as soon as that radio traffic went out, all those deputies were like,
yep,
I'm en route, right?
yep.
I
And that's
can't.
like the time when they actually pull together, and for the most part, I guess, and work really good as a team. I mean, everybody's adrenaline going, and everyone's
Right.
got that one goal, and that's to get this fire knocked out. And I mean, the video just on the news was just unreal.
I
Um,
know. And
just the
you know,
after part of it, I can't imagine.
I know. And scarily, I just YouTube searched. There were a lot of house explosions that popped up that were within the last year
Wow,
in that search. So just like if you ever want, I was like, this happens, I think, way more than it should.
kind
That
of.
is very scary.
It's very scary.
Um, God, we have gas, like,
We do not, and I'm okay with that. But
yeah, I
maybe
mean,
this will
it is
help
kind of a
someone
pain,
else.
like, I'm not gonna lie. But
Yeah, I can imagine.
and it's expensive now, right? Like, it's not even like you're saving money. But our stove is gas, so it's not like we have to have it, we can't.
Right.
um
I mean,
so
people have the propane or like gas fireplaces, whatever. I say
yeah.
propane, but I guess it's gas fireplaces, things that you may not even like think of, this is going to happen, but I mean,
Right. And
it does.
you would also be surprised the number of people that do not know if they have gas or not, because some people have like electric appliances, but they have a gas furnace. And you would be surprised, people that don't know.
So if you get anything out of tonight's episode, folks, do your research on what you do and don't have at home. Jot down the name of your gas company's phone numbers, have it
Yep.
ready because you don't know. Put that shit on your refrigerator.
Right. Put it in
Um,
your phone, your gas company, your power company,
for
put it in your phone.
sure. Because I can tell you, we have well, at least the agency that we worked at, we call an 800 number just like anybody else would. We don't necessarily, that as far as I recall, have a back line. You sit on hold.
Yeah, it depends on the company. Like some of the bigger companies have a direct dispatch line, but some of the other ones don't.
So it definitely will save time for everybody.
Yes. Or they have
Um,
if this is an emergency, press 1, and then it's like an answering
right.
service type thing. But the bigger companies we have direct dispatch numbers too, but
Yeah. So for educational purposes, if you're just Joe Smo homeowner, like I said, have all that stuff together. It's something that you really should think about. Also, as a dispatcher, like don't just assume that every alarm call is going to be a bullshit call or that, you know, just because 98% of them are. You think? I mean, I know this one's probably going to be a shorter episode than what our norm is.
yeah, well, we had some things planned, and then old broke
We
leg
did.
over here.
Yeah, I screwed that up.
So
For
not
sure.
getting stuff from the fire conference. But
Yeah, that was going to be, I was really looking forward to that too. But um, I will say some shout outs for this week. We want to obviously send our thoughts and prayers, condolences to Loudon County, to include their dispatch, all of their fire rescue personnel, police, the citizens in Loudon, family and friends, to all that were involved or touched by the incident. And if anyone out there is close to this incident or
and if you want to come on here and
reach
talk
out,
about it,
people don't.
let's do it.
And I guess that's it for this week, bud.
That is it.
Until next week. Bye.
Bye.